by the name of nucleus. These are the special structures which we find in Chara. Both these structures, like male and the female gamete, they are macroscopic. Means we can see them without the help of the microscope. They are quite large in size. So without using the microscope, we are able to distinguish the structures present on the thallus. So they are macroscopic in nature, and most of the species of Chara they are homothallic in nature. Now can you tell me what is homothallic? Can anybody give me an idea? Homo means same. That means both the gametes, they are present on the same thallus. Or they have the same parental gland on which we have the male and the female gametes. And that is, we can say, the case of the maximum Chara species, that we have homothallic, or in other words, it is also known as monoecious. Monoecious means same thing, that male and female gamete are present on the same plant. If they are present on different plants, then it is known as heterothallic. And in other terms, it is dioecious. So we have monoecious, as well as some of them may show us heterothallic or dioecious conditions depending upon the species in the Chara. The sex organs in Chara are born on the branches of limited growth. We have done the vegetative structure, we have seen the branches of limited and unlimited growth in Chara, and branch of limited growth is also known as primary laterals. So sex organs are born on primary laterals, and the location of the sex organ is always fixed, that we have the nucleus which is present always, if this is the primary lateral, this is our the globule. That nucleus is always present above the globule. We come to the structure just after this, that these two sex organs, they are born on the primary laterals, and development of globule as well as nucleus, that is simultaneous. And in some cases we have that the globule is present before nucleus. That kind of condition is known as protandrous. When male gametangium or male gametes are formed earlier than the female, that is known as protandrous condition. So we may find protandrous condition, or the growth of the two gametes is simultaneous in nature. Now first we will take up the structure of the globule, that is the antheridium. Now if we see the structure of the globule, then mature antheridium is large, macroscopic, and the wall of the globule are made up of 8 cells which are known as shield cells. difference in size. We have the 8 shield cells which are present in the globule, or we can say which forms a boundary of the globule or outer wall of the globule. These 8 shield cells have many enfoldings and special we can say the ornamentation on the surface of this. And each shield cells, another thing which we find over here, have a rod-like cell in the center. This rod-like cell, again, if they are 8 in number, so these rod-like cells are also 8 in number. They are known as manubrium. So manubrium are also 8 in number, just like the shield cells. These manubrium at their distal end, these rod-shaped cells at their distal end, they contain cells which we call it as primary capitulum. These are the capitulum cells. They can be one or more. The spherical cells which are present at the distal end of the manubrium. So all of them, I have just shown this, all of them contain the capitulum cells. If there are no partitions, like we have the primary capitulum cells, then they again give rise to the similar kind of cells which are larger in number. They are known as secondary capitulum cells, and then there can be tertiary capitulum cells also. But if there is no distinction, we simply have the capitulum cells, and then the further we can say the different type of cells which we call it as entheridial filaments. If they are formed like this, then there is only one type, then it is known as only capitulum cells. But we have distinct layers of the capitulum cells, then we call it as primary capitulum, secondary capitulum and tertiary capitulum. If there is no distinction, only one kind of capitulum cells are there, then we will simply call it as capitulum cells only. And these capitulum cells, we can say, bear 2 to 4 unbranched entheridial filament. Means each cell, it will be bearing 2 to 4 filaments, which can be known as entheridial filaments, or they can also be known as spermatogenous filaments. Spermatogenous or entheridial filaments, because these are the filaments, each cell of this filament will bear entheridium or the male gamete. So this is a very specific structure which we don't find in other algae. They have a very simple, we can say, you have done volvox, you have done Oregonium, that we have the simple male and the female gametes. But here we have such a distinct structure of entheridium, where we have the outer boundary made up of shield cells. Each shield cell contains single manubrium rod-shaped cells, which at the top contains capitulum cells, and these capitulum cells give rise to entheridial filament, which will ultimately bear the male gamete. So this is how we can say the male gametes which are formed, and each entheridium, each this we can say globule, give rise to 20 to 50,000 antherozoids for the male gametes. Now another thing, this term has come now, it can be spermatozoids, it can be antherozoids, it can be male gamete. It is one and the same thing. In some books books you may find heterozoids, in some books you may find spermatozoids, in some books you may simply find the male gametes are formed in the cells of the entheridial filament. So it means one and the same thing. And each entheridium of the cara can produce, or globule can produce, 20 to 50,000 entherozoids. Now you can see how large is the number of the gametes which are produced, because it's not that one plant contains only one globule. It contains hundreds of globules because they are present at each node, on the primary lateral, on the main axis, as well as we can say on the long branches also, on the nodes of the long branches also, which contain primary laterals. So hundreds of globules are there, and millions of gametes can be produced in a single cara plant. Now coming to the nucule or oogonia. Oogonium will secrete, we can say, or contains, like one thing is there that it is also macroscopic. So first thing we have to write about the sex organs of the cara is that they are macroscopic in nature. So nucule is also macroscopic structure, which is oval in shape, and they are usually borne on a short stalk. Short pedicel or stalk or branches there which bears the nuclear body, and they are also present at the node of the primary lateral, and like I told you that they are usually in pairs, and nucule are present above the globule. And this is the case in homothallic species, and if we have stereothallic species, automatically one will contain the globule and one will contain the nucule. Then we have that the homothallic nucule lies just above the globule, and we have 5 spirally shaped, like as you can see over here. These are known as tube cells. These spirally shaped cells are present on the, which are covering the nucleus or the wall of the female gamete. These tube cells, they form a spiral shaped covering over it, and this spiral shaped covering will be having a crown of cells at the top. All the 5 tube cells, they are separated at the top by a small septum, and they form a crown of 5 cells. This crown of 5 cells is known as corona. Not this corona, but this corona. Corona, or the crown of cells, which is formed by the division of the tube cells. And these tube cells are covering, we can say they are spirally twisted around the single nucleus, or we can say the egg. The egg or the oogonium is surrounded by the tube cells, which form a crown at the top. And there is one more thing. When we see the internalic structure, it looks like we have to show the tube cells over here. And then this is the crown. Inside we have single nucleus, cytoplasm, and then there is a small colorless area at the top, below the corona. That is a receptive spot. Highline colorless area at one end of the oogonium, and this colorless area is the receptive spot, and this is the, we can say, the position or the area through which the male gamete will enter into the female gamete. The tube cell will separate from here, and they will form a place or the space for the male gamete to enter into the female gamete. So we have a specialized the localized area from which the male gamete can enter into So receptive spot is specifically mentioned or specifically present to receive, we can say in a way, to receive the male gamete. And once the male gamete enters through the receptive spot, then the next step, that is the fertilization. At the maturity of the oogonium, like I told you, the tube cells, they will separate, narrow slits will be formed, which will allow the antherozoids of the male gamete to swim near the oogonium and then enter or penetrate into the wall of the oogonium from the receptive spot. The wall on that area will be dissolved and the male gamete will enter through the receptive spot into the oogonium or the female gamete. Now many antherozoids can enter because we cannot restrict their entry, that only one can enter and rest will not enter. Many can enter into it, but only one of them will fuse with the egg to form the zygote. And then the zygote will secrete, once the fusion has occurred, then the zygote will secrete a very thick wall around itself, and then it is known as oospore. It will secrete a very thick wall around itself, and the rest of the tube cells and the corona cells, they will ultimately get decayed. They will disintegrate, and then the oospore looks like a small rounded structure with a very thick wall around it. It can be yellow in color, it can be red in color, or it can be brown in color depending upon the species. And it undergoes a period of rest now. Normally the zygote undergoes a period of rest because we know that sexual reproduction occurs during unfavorable conditions. It is the asexual reproduction which occurs in favorable conditions. In majority of the plants in algae, the sexual reproduction is occurring in unfavorable conditions. So when zygote is formed, it undergoes a period of rest. That resting period depends or varies from species to species. It can be from few days to few months also. Then this oospore will undergo, once the favorable condition will come, then it will undergo the process of germination. And during germination, one thing is there, that the oospores of Chara do not germinate in dark. They require white or red light for germination, and at the end of the resting period, the nucleus of the oospore that will come to the anterior end of the oospore, number one. Now this nucleus is what? It is diploid. So the first step for the germination is the meiotic division. That this nucleus will undergo meiosis and it will produce the haploid nuclei. The 4 haploid nuclei will be formed, and out of these 4 haploid nuclei, sometimes what happens that the 3 degenerate and only 1 will remain. And during the germination, it will form 2 kind of cells, or what we call it as the protonema and primary protonema and rhizoidal initial. Like we have this oospore. This will be primary protonema, and this will be rhizoidal initial. And this will grow downward, enter into the soil, and it will keep on forming branches. And then this will also divide and produce, we can say, the multicellular branches. And like we discussed in the vegetative reproduction, there we use the term secondary protonema, right? That the secondary protonema is also one of the mode of vegetative reproduction in Chara. Here we are using the word primary protonema because primary protonema are the structures which are formed from the germ spore, which are formed from the oospore. Any other protonema structure formed from, we can say any other part of the plant is secondary. So the primary protonema is always formed from the germs. Like here we have the oospore which is producing the protonemal branches. So these protonemal branches are known as primary protonema, and this primary protonema will get converted into the vegetative thallus later. It will keep on producing branches, and then those branches will be, we can say, main axis. This will produce further branches to form the primary laterals and secondary laterals and so on. So this is the complete, you can say, life cycle of the Kara. And one thing which we see in the life cycle, that is alternation of generation. Now, what do we mean by alternation of generation? Like we have seen the life cycle of Kara, we know that the plant body of the Kara is haploid. During the vegetative reproduction, again the haploidy continues. It is only during the sexual reproduction that we have a small phase of diploidy, when the fertilization takes place and we have the formation of the zygote and the oospore. They are diploid, and oospore further we can say undergoes meiosis to produce haploid spore. So it is only the zygote phase which is diploid, and rest all the phases in the life cycle, they are haploid. So that is, we can say, alternation, that haploidy alternates with the diploidy condition in the life cycle. But here we can say that this kind of life cycle is known as haplontic life cycle, because haploid phase predominates over the diploid phase. Diploid phase is very short. It is of very short duration. Maximum life cycle span is the haploidy only. So these kind of life cycles, they are known as the haplontic life cycles, where haploid phase predominates over the diploid phase. So we have an haplontic life cycle in Kara, and if we see the graphic life cycle, how do we write graphic life cycle? In the graphic life cycle, we can say this is the Kara plant, vegetative thallus. Fragmentation. याद है आप लोगों को क्या क्या है इसमें? और क्या था अगर आप लोगों को याद हो इसके अंदर तो? सेकेंडरी प्रोटोनेमा, जस्ट डिस्कस. Then one was more amylin stars. So on one side we see write the vegetative as well as asexual reproduction. Here we don't have any asexual reproduction, so we are not writing. On the other side we will write sexual reproduction. Globule, nucleole, we can write it amphibian and euphonium also. We can write male gamete, or like I told you, we can have entherozoids. Here we have fertilization. and then it will produce what? Kara plant. So this is how we write the graphic life cycle of a particular plant. Here we have not written asexual reproduction, that will also come over here at the top. At the bottom we will write about the sexual reproduction. And whenever we describe graphic life cycle, I told you that we have to summarize the whole life cycle also. We have to explain the complete life cycle in a summary form. But if we are giving the diagrammatic life cycle, then we have to only draw the diagram. No summary is required in the life cycle when it is represented in the diagrammatic manner. So this is about the complete, we can say, the Kara plant.